Hello everyone and welcome back to Nate the Hoof Guy. Today's video we've got two trims for you and they're both high white line lesions. First up we've got this girl. We've got some horn separation here up toward the heel. So let's get to work on her and see what we got. So when we're dealing with white line lesions, they typically show up in about three primary locations. In this spot here is the most common, up high, what I call high white line lesions. High up in that white line where that heel bulb and sole area meet. That's where that typically happens, in that white line. The reason for that is because a lot of the pressures that the cow gets on these feet happen in this heel area, so that's just a natural area for defects to show themselves in that white line. One thing to take note of here too is how deep I've left that medial claw, how much height I've got there. That's going to come into play later on in this trim. So just like in most of my other trims, what I'm trying to do here is just remove all of that loose horn from around that lesion that's underneath there. We do that in order to get that area to heal better. So you can't see it yet, but there's a lesion underneath, and this loose horn here is over the top of that. I need to get that away because that's abrading that lesion underneath. So that's what we're doing here, and we'll carry on. Here you can get a good look of what that underlying lesion looks like. So what we're going to do now is wrap this with salicylic acid. And if we go back now, remember how deep I left that medial claw? That's where this is going to come into play, because I'm not going to put a block on this foot. I'm going to use that heel depth on that medial claw to act as a natural block. And that way I can avoid having to glue one on there. Let's take a look and see how this girl's walking. The natural block, it's doing its job. Let's move on to our second case for today. This girl here has got much the same situation going on. Here's the spot we need to investigate right here. As I remove some of these larger chunks of hoof, I can tell already that this one's going to be a little bit different in that I've got hemorrhaging in that typical sole ulcer site. So as far as blocking, this one's going to be a block for sure. I get questions quite a bit about what is the consistency of hoof. Like, what does it feel like to have your knife draw through it? And to give you an idea, it would be similar to cutting through hard rubber on a freestyle foot like this one here. When you deal with areas like this hemorrhaging area you see in this foot, that's going to be a much softer area because that's not good quality horn there, and your knife will zip through that a lot easier. When it comes to wall horn, which I'm working on with my grinder there, that horn on the outside wall is much harder, so that's a lot harder to cut through. That's when we're dealing with these cows here, freestall feet. When we deal with tie stall cows, those are cows that tend to have much drier hooves, so they're much harder. That cutting through those is much more difficult, much more like cutting through a hardwood. So that's why you don't see me do a lot of knife work on those really hard feet as far as removing large amounts of hoof. That's done with the grinder because it's just so much harder. I'm working at kind of a strange angle here, so you can't see it. I'm going to switch the camera up here in a minute, though, so you can get a better view of what I'm actually working on here. Here you can get a look at that crack, and what it's going to do is it's going to work up all the way to the top in that spot up above there. We're going to remove all this hoof here, and that will expose that. Here's that hemorrhaging I was talking about earlier. That's when I see that and I've got a white line, I'm going to automatically block that other claw. And this is one of those times where it can get a little tricky working from that wall horn into that solar horn. You can see here where it goes and all of a sudden goes really fast and slips. You can see there I got a little bit of where the new horn on the solar area met that wall. That's where that little spot is there. I'm going to put a block on this claw now because, as I talked about earlier, that hemorrhaging area, what that's signifying is that there's hemorrhaging to that corium, underlying corium underneath. You can see it modeled throughout that claw as well. That's telling me that that claw, that the pedal bone inside there is causing trauma to that corium layer. So I want to give that time some rest regardless. Even though the fact that this white line is not that significant in the grand scheme of things, it's that hemorrhaging more so along with that white line telling me I definitely need to rest this claw. So once again, I'm going to wrap this foot with salicylic acid. Like I talked about before, I use this to kill any potential bacteria that could cause digital dermatitis and attack that corium. I do that just in case. There may not be any there, but if there is, and if that takes hold, that digital dermatitis on that corium, it's going to delay this healing process. And salicylic acid, I just had a lot of really good luck with that, having these lesions heal on that first attempt when using that. So that's why I went with this, and that's why you see me use this frequently for white line lesions, is just to make sure that that doesn't happen. If you're wondering what that little anklet is that's above where I've got my strap there, all that does is register when that cow comes into the parlor, and they can track different things as far as milk production, when the cow comes in heat, things like that from that monitor. Let's let this girl go and see how she's doing with her block. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this video. As always, thank you for watching. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button, and we will see you all on the next one.